So today we're going to look at Chapter 27 of AP World History, and so we're going to look at Europe and the Western Hemisphere since 1945, so post-World War II. So the first thing that we're going to look at is recovery and renewal in Europe. So Western Europe, we see democracy taking place in Western Europe. Remember, Eastern Europe kind of falls into these satellite nations, or these satellite states of the Soviet Union. When you look at France, after World War II is over, France, remember, during the war, it had been conquered by Nazi Germany. And Charles de Gaulle was one of their big military leaders during World War II, who's a freedom fighter. But when France now is going to have to reestablish its new government, the new government is going to be established under de Gaulle. So de Gaulle is coming into France where it's had a lot of turmoil, and it's a very weak government after World War II is over. So a weak Fourth Republic was created after World War II, and the Algerian revolt is going to bring de Gaulle back into power. So de Gaulle was in power, then he's out, then he comes back in. Now when de Gaulle's Fifth Republic comes in, he gets more power to be president. And as president, he tries to restore France's position as a great power, as a world power. The only problem with France trying to become a world power is that it is a pretty small country. And because it's a small country, what you're going to see is France trying to have these global ambitions, but no real might or teeth behind it. So under de Gaulle, there was some economic growth, but there's also inflation at the same time. So the franc, the dollar, okay, for them, it doesn't go quite as far. And he will build up military expenditures, particularly in nuclear arms. So he invests very heavily in nuclear arms. And what you see for France is that they really do start to build a lot for ammunitions and war. The other thing that you see is that they're going to have a lot of automobiles. They're going to become a major exporter of ammunition, armaments, and automobiles. That's going to be what France's economy is going to be based on. He's also going to see the nationalization of coal, steel, and railroads, and that's going to lead to a deficit, a budget deficit, as time goes on. In 1968, students are going to riot, and this is going to lead to Charles de Gaulle resigning in 1969. Mitterrand is going to now become the new president, and Mitterrand, what he does is he's going to reform as well, but he doesn't necessarily get as much reform done. He promises a lot. He doesn't necessarily succeed in all the areas. He nationalizes the steel industry, major banks, space program, the electronic industries, and major insurances. But by 1993, unemployment was 10.6%, which is a huge amount. And so what you're going to see is a switch again. Now we're going to switch to the right, with Chirac being the new president in 1995. Now, he's been kind of criticized because he didn't really back the United States' invasion of Iraq in 2003. He's also going to send the illegal immigrants back to their domestic home. So the migrant workers that were coming in, he sends them back to their migrant homes. Now, the next country that we're going to shift to is Germany. So from West Germany to one Germany. The Federal Republic of Germany is in 1949. This is going to be the Western Germany, the democracy. And what you kind of see with Germany is a Germany that is going to be very strong, despite the fact that they lost half of their original German territory. They do make a lot of growth. So West Germany is going to cooperate with the United States and Western powers, and part of that is the reason why the economy does such a great revival. From the center right to center left, in 1969 under Brandt, you see the Austro-Polish, and this is the opening towards the east. So what he's going to do is he's going to make a treaty with East Germany, and you're going to start seeing tensions between East and West Germany kind of going on, a little bit of a decline. Now coal is going to come in 1982, and what you're going to see is an economic boom in the 80s. Germany is going to be reunified in 1990, so the Berlin Wall collapses. And so what you see with Germany is a reunified Germany. And then you have the problems of how do you get the East and the West to actually be reunited. For the West, it's like economically draining on them that the East has come in, because the East, led by a communist ruler, has not actually been a economic boost. You know, it's been a drain. They're not as advanced as the western part of Germany. So economically, bringing in East Germany has been pretty costly, but Germany was reunified. And so what you start to see in Germany is that because the East was a little bit behind, if you still go to Germany today, Eastern Germany looks a little bit different than Western Germany. And it's just because of the Soviet control or the communist control. But it's still better than a lot of parts of Eastern Europe. I mean, East Germany was still a pretty industrialized region when you look at the Eastern Bloc or the Soviet bloc. So then what we look at is Germany kind of returning to the Social Democrats, and that's because the social problems, the economic problems are there. Now we're going to switch to Great Britain. So in Great Britain, what you're going to see is Attlee coming into power in 1945. So Winston Churchill is voted out. He's a conservative. He gets voted out after the war is over because they didn't want a wartime prime minister. They wanted somebody in there that was going to be a little bit different. So Attlee comes in, and he's a Labour Party guy. And he's going to create England to be, or Great Britain to be, a modern welfare state. So he's going to nationalize the Bank of England, coal and steel industries. He's also going to do that with public transportation and public utilities. He will subsidize unemployed people, sick, and elderly. So he's going to kind of do some of the stuff that the United States did with the New Deal. He does that in England. And he's also going to socialize medicine. So he'll force doctors and dentists to work for the state. He'll have a Social Security program and nationalize medical care. But the reason why they're doing this is that Great Britain's not a superpower anymore. Their economy's on the decline. And so some of this is done to try and revive it. We see some economic problems being brought back. And because the economic problems are coming back, you're going to see the Conservatives coming back into power from 1951 to 1964. And the problem with Britain is that Britain's not the superpower that it was 100 years ago, and so they don't really know how to adjust their economy accordingly. And I mean, this is the same problem that you see like the United States trying to face, is if you're not producing items, if you're not an industrial center, then what are you going to be? What's your economy focus going to be? So Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, and I know the movie come out and you guys could watch it. It goes over a lot of stuff with the last 20 years, the last 30 years really of politics, so it wouldn't be that bad. So Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, she became the Prime Minister in 79, so 1979, and she is going to be the first female Prime Minister of Great Britain. So they call it Thatcherism. What she'll do is she'll improve the economy, but at the same time that she improves the economy, she kind of sacrifices the Northern England economy. So they're not really going to actually produce the same stuff that they've been producing. So you're going to see a limit on social welfare. She's going to do some limits there. She's also going to restrict union power, and she'll end inflation. But because of the high unemployment in the North, and what she'll try to do is do a flat tax. And it's a flat tax. Every person, every citizen would have to pay the same tax. She gets voted out, and Tony Blair and the Labour Party comes back in to power. So Tony Blair will be the next Prime Minister after Thatcher. And he'll return the Labour Party back into power in 1997. Tony Blair will side with the United States against the war against Saddam Hussein in Iraq. So that will actually cause him a huge popularity decline, and he'll eventually get voted out because of it. The new Labour Party is less socialist than the old Labour Party, so you'll see differences with Blair's administration versus the previous one. So again, we're going to switch. Now we're going to look at Eastern Europe after communism. Sometimes it was difficult, the transition from communism to capitalism. You know, there's a different mentality, a different ideology base there. So you're going from the government telling you how much you actually have to produce, which can cause shortages, to trying to predict how much you should actually produce, which is capitalism. So by 2000, Poland and the Czech Republic led the way to free markets and democracy. So you see Poland and Czech Republic kind of emerging as the leaders in this area and like experts in how to actually take this market economy and apply it, and how to take democracy and apply it to these places. Czechoslovakia is divided into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and basically the reason why it's divided is because of ethnic issues. So again, we kind of see nationalism being a focus. So European integration is going to start. What you're going to see is Poland becoming a country, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. They're all going to join NATO in 1997. So you'll see them breaking away from the communist rule and starting to become their own democracies and deciding what they want to do. So NATO will have more allies. It'll have more military alliances by 1997. So a lot of these Eastern European countries will come in the NATO. So what we see with Yugoslavia is that Tito, remember Tito's the guy that Stalin doesn't like, because Tito takes communism and kind of twists it to fit Yugoslavia. He pretty much holds together Yugoslavia until he actually dies in 1980. But after him, there's really not a strong dynamic leader, and because there's not a strong dynamic leader, you see the breakdown of Yugoslavia. So Slovenia and Croatia are going to declare their independence in 1991, and these were little republics that were in Yugoslavia. Serbia is going to be led by Milosevic, and he is going to declare war on Serb minorities. So we're going to have an ethnic cleansing in these areas. So Milosevic is not a nice guy. I mean, he's definitely similar to Hitler with his ethnic cleansing. What he does is he kills mainly the Bosnian Muslims. The people who are in there in Serbia are in Slovenia and Croatia. They're really those people, but they're Muslims, so he's going to kill them, and he kills them in Bosnia as well. So there's bad massacres. You're looking at like 8,000 boys and men dying in these areas. So the United States and Europe will eventually get involved, but they don't get involved until 1995, which is going to lead to a ceasefire. But pretty much what you see is that Milosevic is kind of doing what he wants for a while. And nobody's really stopping him. And the United States and Europe get a lot of flack about this because he commits crimes against humanity. You know, he's killing kids, he's killing unarmed people. But, you know, nobody's really slapping him on the wrist. Internationally, Slovenia, Croatia, Macedonia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina, they had all been recognized. But this doesn't stop Milosevic. When you've been recognized, it means that other countries recognize the legitimacy of your country. But this guy's not stopped by that kind of stuff. So when he does this ethnic cleansing, he doesn't just stop with Bosnia. He's also going to start a new war in Kosovo. So in 1999, he moves into Kosovo, and he basically will kill all the Albanian Muslims. So the guy doesn't like Muslims, and this still is a problem area in this region of the world. We still have a lot of terrorism and ethnic cleansing in parts. So he was put on trial for his crimes against humanity. In 2004, what's left of the Yugoslavia becomes Serbia and Montenegro. So what you're going to see is these other countries now replacing Yugoslavia. So the unification of Europe is going to start. So this is the predecessor to the European Union. So in 1957, what you see is this Treaty of Rome that is going to be signed. And the Treaty of Rome was done because after World War II, European nations saw a need for a unity, some sort of conformity within the continent. So the Treaty of Rome is going to establish the European Economic Community, the EEC. So France, West Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, they're all going to have elimination of trade barriers. So no more tariffs, so free trade areas. Then Britain, Ireland, Denmark will join the European Community in 1973, and later you're going to see Greece, Spain, Portugal, Austria, Finland, and Sweden also joining it. So you're going to have no more trade barriers between these countries. So that's going to allow more trade, and you really are going to see a huge boost in their economy because of it. the European Union is now going to be created, and this kind of became because you understood the economics, and now they're wanting to kind of do, maybe get more into the politics of being a union. And I'll stop here and we'll go on to part 2.